Hello Chipsters, it's Gav. Welcome to another one of my videos. Today I just wanted to give you an update. In fact, it's the first update, which is unusual for me. You know how many videos I tend to make. On the Airfix 1 in 35 scale Ferret armoured car. Is it a Mark II? Yeah, Mark II. Wife bought this for me, was it a couple of years ago when Airfix, in fact we got it on pre-order, which is the first thing I've ever pre-ordered in my life, I think. I was brought up on army bases in Germany and the UK as a little kid, and the Ferret was always around, you know, along with the Stalwart, obviously all the Bedfords, the old Bedfords, before they came Dafts, Scimitar, Scorpion, Saladin, Saracen, all the British well-known armoured cars and armoured personnel 432s, which is the tracked armoured car, more or less a steel box on tracks. Yeah, all those from literally from the 60s up through to the 80s, really, I suppose. Although I knew them through the 70s. I'd planned that. Well, that's why I'm doing this spiel to the camera. I'd planned to before the Reconnaissance group build, because this is being built for the Reconnaissance group build, hopefully by Joachim and Marcus. Hopefully it'll be in the description. But originally, though, I was going to build it, and I'd already heard that it got no interior, and it hasn't. It's got you've got a couple of two choices of radio. I think a Larkspur and maybe Clansman. I'm doing the very early version, so in the in the decals options and all that type of stuff. So I think it's number A, the Berlin one, which is the one on the box art. And I thought, I like my scratch building. I thought, or conversions and stuff. I thought, yep, I'm gonna, when I've got time, I'm gonna do all the inside up of that, and because you literally get a steering wheel. I think it's just a steering wheel, 2 seats, which are, in real life are very simple, just like benches more or less to sit on. It's very cramped interior, but you get nothing else. There's no, you'll have things for the magazines for the crew, because it is a reconnaissance armoured car, but it's also used for liaison, so battlefield taxi really for headsheds. Headsheds, army slang for brass, which is army slang I suppose for officers, RSMs, CSMs, company sergeant majors, regimental sergeant majors, technical quartermaster sergeants, all that type of stuff. And I plan to just do a scratch and interior for it. It's my thing, I like doing that, and obviously I've just never got round to getting it done, and I was feeling bad because just like a few kits have been bought for me and they get built, I tend to go on to others. You know what I'm like, I go on to them, some get part built and some gets literally open the box and then shut again. The one in 24 car, by the way, 25 car, hot rod, that is still waiting for primer, but it will be primed this weekend. The weather's decent, and it seems to have broke at last from the high, because it's been mainly high winds and stuff we've been having, so that should have some progress on that one, because I want to get those two out of the way, because I'm finally getting around to the one thing I've been wanting to build for ages but too terrified to do it, which is my 1 in 48 scale Starfighter, the kinetic one. I've also got a Italeri rebox of a and he said Husqvarna then, chainsaws, Hasegawa one as well, much older kit, which I've planned to build as well after that sometime. Anyway, back to the Ferret. So I was getting a bit like, I've got to get this Ferret on the go, because the wife bought it me, and that was good of her and that. And then the Reconnaissance group build came along, so I thought, classic time for me to do it. But I knew I wasn't going to have time to do any scratch building. I struggle with group builds at the best of times, because I just, like at the moment, I'm painting the Napoleonic Commission. It's almost there. I've almost got it over the line. It'll take about another week and a half or so. But that's paying work, and I've got to get it done. I can't flirt too much with doing builds of models of the soldiers that I paint, which I do, which you see the Landsknechts and all that stuff. I need to, but my head goes round and round, so I end up going off doing other bits, which clients would know all about, so it's not a problem on their end, it's just a problem on my end, because I like to get it done for them. Anyway, we're going around in circles yet again. So I came up with the idea, did I not, if you ever watched the unboxing video of this, no, not the unboxing video, the video where I said this is what I was going to do for the group build. And I'd come up with the idea, I'd seen some photographs of, I don't know if it was a Mark 1 or Mark 3, whatever it was, but without the turret. And it was being used by one of the armoured regiments as one of the company sergeant major's runabouts, more or less. And it had been, I wouldn't say heavily converted, but it got a lot of, towards the end of their careers, it wasn't so much regimentalised, where they were sticking bits on unofficial, if that makes sense. So they were making cradles on the back to stowage for putting loads of load, and if a sergeant major goes anywhere, he goes wearing luxury. And this one was piled high to the gunnels. I think he moved his house at the same time with it. They put I think I told you before, it looked like maybe Land Rover windows they'd used, I'm not sure, but they made a windscreen on top of because it's an open one, this one, windscreen and all that. No armament to it. I mean, armament's only ever a machine gun anyway. And I thought, yep, that's for me. I'm going to do that because I've got all these bits and pieces. I know I can scratch that up, and I even do that. And then but then I'm going to have to do the interior. And I wasn't sure how much, although I'd had a look at the box, I wasn't sure how much was actually in the interior. It turns out, as I say, it's fairly blank, which will come to it in a minute. And I've got all these great ideas, and I would have gone through with that. Whether I'd have got it, I mean, I'll have it painted the weekend, but it's still way behind. I thought I'd had it done about 3 weeks ago. And then it just hit me. I thought, this is the Reconnaissance group build, and yes, the Ferret is a Reconnaissance type armoured car. It's not meant, well, all armoured cars are Reconnaissance really, but some have got more of a heavy punch than others, The Ferret was never designed to have a heavy punch. It was designed to get in and get out quickly. A machine gun just for a bit of localised self-defence. But that was it really. And I just thought, what you're doing here is a company sergeant major's runabout, communication vehicle. It isn't in the reconnaissance role. So I thought, right, back to the drawing board. I looked at the 3 options that just build it out the box so that at least you can say you've done the reconnaissance group build. And I don't mean that in a huff or, oh, I don't like it. I do it every year, and I always will do it every year. It's just, I just let my imagination sometimes get a bit too much of my time commitments and skills levels at times. So I'm doing the one on the front. I'm doing that because I've still got some wheels and everything in there. That's what I'm doing. It will be out the box. Now, I have painted all the interior and pucker, as in well. No, pucker, well, good, whatever. Anyway, but I've done a pucker interior to it. It's, it's got silk. I don't believe it's the one thing I think they don't have on. They've missed on the paint call-outs, colour call-outs, whatever you call it. They've missed the silver off, or the aluminium inside paint. I couldn't see it, and I had to look on some ferrets to make. I knew it was aluminium, but I thought I'd better double check. So I've done all that, painted the seats, radios, blah blah. Left a dirty great sink mark between the two things because I didn't think they were going to be seen. And I'd done the hatches for at least the front driver's 3 hatches open, and I was going to do the top hatch open. But there's so little in there. I just thought that it's not worth it. So I've ended up closing the entire thing up. So I wasted my time painting the interior. I didn't paint the interior of the turret because by then I knew I was closing everything up. The wheels aren't on it yet because I'm leaving off the paint. I think people said how well the Airfix kits have transitioned into being really well thought out, engineered, coming together really well for the aircraft and that. And I think this Ferret more or less hits that. There was a few small gaps where you build the higher part, not the highest, the machine gun part of the turret, but the low, I'd call the lower turret for better. Well, it's not a turret, you know, move around. But the lower part anyway, where all the joins are, there was a couple of gaps, but not huge gaps. But I think that was down to me than the kit, because everything else, they've really thought about how, like, the suspension comes in about 5 parts or 4 parts, whatever. But it all comes together really nicely, as Airfix kits do, or are particularly renowned for now. And well, I'll go. Well, I'm doing all this, and we might as well go and see the. Let me put this down. We might as well see the Ferret, haven't we? Because then I can at least point to the bits that I had a tiny bit of, not trouble, but things you might just want to look out for. So yeah, it's out of the box. it's going to be that Berlin Ferret. Well, we're calling it the Berlin Ferret because it's outside the Brandenburg Gate type of thing, as they were building the wall by the bit, or something like Checkpoint Charlie or something. So yeah, it's a shame. I could have done more to it, and they've now brought another one out, which is the oak without the turret. I wouldn't be rushing off to get that one anytime soon, but if I was to do a Ferret again, and I really do like Ferrets, but if I was to do a Ferret again, I'd do something like that, and I might well do a conversion type of something just slightly different from out. I don't. A lot of times, with aircraft, it's a bit different. I mean, you can change decals and all that, but with vehicles, you know, you can do that bit extra difference to them if you so wish. So let's go down to the bench. I'm leaving the wheels off. I'll explain that in a minute, apart from the painting aspect of it, and we'll just take a look at what's been built so far. Right, guys, thanks for joining me at the bench. Here's our little Ferret. As you can see, it's not a huge vehicle. The earlier versions and then some of the later versions would come without the turret on. Two-man vehicle. I could take the turret off, but I'm not going to bother. 30 cal machine gun, in later changed to the general purpose machine gun sometimes, or it would have this turret off and a pintle mount on the very front of this. I don't know what you call it, this here, cupola, whatever, and there'd be a pintle mounted, even something like an LMG, which was a bit based, which was sort of like a Bren gun, that was around in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s. I decided to put all the pioneering tools type of stuff on, towing bars. I put all those on just because I thought, well, I can get in there spraying and that. I'm not sure yet, I might either grey paint this, I might black base it, I'm not sure yet, but I might do some highlight. I don't want to do this, so this isn't even going to get weathered, and that isn't being lazy. I just want it to be a shiny Ferret that's in the company vehicle sheds waiting for its, you know, when it's turn to go out or whatever. I don't want it looking like it's too weathered or it's been on exercise or anything like that. I just want it as if it's, you know, it's been washed down, it's in the sheds waiting for the next exercise or whatever. So I've only built the turret last night. There's a couple of little gaps. It is quite clunky anyway as a turret on the real thing, but there are a couple of gaps like that I'm going to have to sort out. It took a bit of getting this absolutely level. I mean, you can say it's not, well, I don't know, it's not too far off now, so it just needs a bit of a light sanding in places, but I couldn't get that to sit down either. If I sat down one end, it didn't do the other, and it was just, luckily I'd only just made the turret up, and it was just a case of tweaking the sides until everything fit, and then pushing it down, then re-gluing the sides in. But that's, I mean, there's no gap there. That's just where I've painted the interior and things, and painted. I did paint obviously the reverse sides of these viewing ports. As I say, on the real thing, obviously they open wide for the driver. You have to paint these silver and put some clear stuff inside, so that's why they're open. These just about fit in, the wing mirrors. It's got the earlier lamps on this one, a bit like you find on almost on a Land Rover of the period. Go check out George at that Mofo Damon channel, and he's doing not for the group build, but he's doing a Land Rover, an old Series 3 Land Rover, I believe, which was around the time that these were, well, they had 2s and 2As, but we had 3s as well later on. At the same time, you could say this was water jerry can, fuel jerry can. I was going to say, what's that? But was there anything else? There was one other thing I was going to say to you. On the wheel side of it, I say this looks complicated, but it actually fits really well together, so I don't think you'll have any problems on that front. The only thing I'd have is I haven't got the wheels out, but when I put a test wheel on the front particularly, they were quite loose in the hole that the rim fits into. I thought that could have been a bit tighter, because I'm going to have trouble, I believe, getting the wheels absolutely straight. But cross that bridge when we come to it. There'll be a wheel on there if you don't know. We've got a bit of a gap there. This does stick out at the front, this panel. There was something else, Gav. I mean, people have said it's quite clunky, moulded. Again, I'm not a full-on builder of armour, but it didn't look clunky to me. It seemed like a Ferret to me. It didn't seem particularly needed any refining, if that makes sense. I'm sure if something like Mini Art or something did it, it'd have 10,000 pieces to it. But I'm disappointed with no interior to it. I can see Airfix's point of view. They've got to keep the costs down, and I can only surmise that they thought, well, even with these driving viewports up, what are you really going to see in there? And if you really wanted to do one, you could scratch it, or I'm sure there's aftermarket people that have come up with something for it. So, you could go to town on this. So you could build cradles on them, you could put camo nets on. I did build, before I realised that this particular version didn't have this, or I wouldn't be surprised if it did, to be honest with you, but they just haven't shown it. They've just gone off a picture. I wouldn't be, I mean, this is just these are sand ladders, and I would imagine that if you wanted to put that on in this earlier version, you could do so. I just built it and didn't realise it, but I'll leave it off. Go like the box art. That was the other thing here. This is, I mean, get yourself some mesh if you can, but it'll do for me, especially my level of building. The only thing I'd say is it has a little tab that goes in under this cover, and I was having great difficulty, by the amount of glue around it, I was having great difficulty in it fitting together without it coming out at an angle, and I had to clip that tab away. Now that probably is me yet again. We all know what I'm like building, so that's probably my faux pas, but I'm just saying, if you do have trouble, then maybe think about just clipping that tab off with your sprue cutters, and it does fit in a lot better. As you can see, there's a tiny bit sticks out there, but I can live with that. A later version, I think, has a board on the back, or there's something that's supposed to stick on the back, maybe, I'm not sure, but it doesn't do on this early one. A couple of little things still to be done here. There's some lashing points like these, I think, have got to go on. There's another searchlight got to go on the one side, and that's it really. As I say, I'm going to attempt to get these, use some talcum powder mixed with CA glue, which is my filler of choice. These were the gaps, as you can see here, which I had to just put some CA in again. I couldn't get that. I'm going to try and clean that up a bit better with some sandpaper around a cocktail stick or something to clean that better. That was the biggest gap down there, before I put all these side pieces on. Obviously I've got print there, which doesn't surprise me, the faffing around I had putting it in, but that can be cleaned up. But yeah, the couple of little gaps on there, I would say they're more down to me than Airfix's, because everything else just clips into place really nice. So that's just my ham-fistedness. I think that's it. So there's our Ferret so far. As I say, I'm not going to put her on the wheel. I have got the wheels, and they are, as you can see, this type of primer here. I primed those 15mm tanks a week and a half ago, and I used the same time to primer this inside and do the wheels. But they're quite loose, and there's not really much point, because I can guarantee by the time I try and get them to sit down, it'll just fall off. So yeah, so she's going to be just in overall bronze green. I'm going to maybe do some pre-shading on it just to give a bit of tonal variation to it, but I'm not going to do any weathering on it, put any scratches, because these were looked after. If you were in an armoured unit or armoured infantry unit, because in the British Army, even now I believe, in most cases you tend to roll round. So you can be an armoured infantry unit for 3 or 4 years, and your battalion rolls into somewhere where what they call a B-class infantry unit, and we were one. It's nothing. It's not a slight against your regiment. It just means you're literally there as dogs' bodies. Really, there's usually 2 or 3 units, battalions in the. Well, when we had enough blokes, we don't anymore. But Boy Scouts have got more than we've got now. But yeah, you used to be rolled to do anything Northern Ireland. People went to Sierra Leone, all that type of stuff. You know, it just depended where they needed to send you, really. But if you were in an A-class unit, you got all the equipment, all the fancy kit. So yeah, as I say, I won't give a how many out of 10 until it's all done and dusted. But I've enjoyed it. It's taken me just like I've worked on it for an hour a night for. I'd had actually cleaned a lot of the bits up already, but it's just taken, as I say, doing the commission and that. I've just been doing it for an hour a night, and it's a nice little thing. If you've got not that there's a load of figures out there for the 70s, 80s, type of period, but you can make a nice little die over that with like a Land Rover or 432 or something, armoured personnel carrier. Saracens, or they do. Who is it? Is it Bronco that do that? Is it Saladin or Saracen? Saracen, I think. But yeah, be nice for they don't take a lot of room up these, and a couple of figures, like nice little dio. Put it on exercise particularly, but they were all over the shop. They were in Lebanon on the fateful time when they blew up the blooming French and the Marines. But there was a small British detachment tootling around in these. Don't think it scared anybody. I think it wasn't supposed to, but it's supposed to be there to monitoring ceasefires. But yeah, those and the Italians were there as well. So yeah, look after yourselves. I'm waffling, but I just wanted to give you an update. I won't give you another update now. I'll just do a finished video when it's all done, because once it's had its paint on, I'm not doing anything else to it in that scheme of things. So it'll be a finished video probably. So look after yourselves, and we'll catch each other soon on another video.